evening and welcome to the Writer's Block. I'm your host, John Ronan, and as you know now, because I keep saying it, we're now in our 33rd year. So you know that I interview writers about their craft, what they're working on, what they've accomplished, what they might be planning for the future. It's a slightly wider net than that, however. We have had on musicians, we've had on artists, we've had on a couple of sculptors. So if you have an idea for a writer, or maybe another brand of artist who might be a good fit for the Writer's Block, watch for our address at the end of the credits after the show. We'd love to get your suggestions. I also want to remind you that the Writer's Block and all the other original programming that comes out of 1623 Studios is a result of cable access television. It's a wonderful, wonderful social asset for Cape Ann and Gloucester. And you don't get that if you get Dish or any other way of accessing the internet. Stick with cable, stick with the Writer's Block. I'm happy to say tonight we do have a writer/editor by the name of Martin Ray, who's very well known in Gloucester for his community work over many of the years. He's been here longer than I have, over 50 years. And we're very happy to talk about an effort that he's made to help celebrate the 400th city anniversary. Welcome to the Writer's Block, Martin.
Thank you, John.
We were talking before the show started about how long we have been here. And you came here in 1972, did you say?
72.
Where were you raised? Where did you come from?
Well, my family was a military family, so all my life we moved around considerably, but my mother had roots right here in Gloucester because her parents had a summer home in Lanesville. And I spent many happy weeks there in my barefoot days. And all the while, and because we'd moved around so much, all the while I thought of that as a beacon to return to. And in 1972, I had the chance to do that.
So you did have some kind of family roots here. And
Yes.
I had a guest not too long ago who closed her eyes and took a stab at a map. And that's how she found Gloucester.
Yeah.
But your experience is more common, I think.
Well, I did that in a sense, but because I could have gone anywhere, but the pin was pulled strongly by the magnet of my previous summer experiences here.
Where did you grow
Well, we moved. I went to 13.
up? Just everywhere? You said everywhere?
Yeah, I went to 13 different schools.
Oh, well, I know
Yes.
Military backgrounds are often like
Yes.
that, but so you didn't settle down anywhere.
No, but my children went their entire schools in the Gloucester public school system, and I was thrilled about that.
So you didn't want them to move around. Although you were in the military somewhere between.
Between 68 and 72, yes.
So you came here directly out of the Army.
It was exactly directly, yes. I took off my uniform in San Francisco, and I got on a plane, and I came right to Gloucester.
Wow, you had it worked out.
Yes.
1972, that was before we had to go through radar to get on the planes, or x-rays or whatever we have to go through. A little easier those days. What have you been doing in Gloucester since you got here? Just a summary, not all 50,
Yes.
all 51 years.
Yes. Well, it took a few years, but I eventually discovered a career in landscape gardening. And, you know, it's interesting because I reflected on that. It eventually turned into a career of making environments. And I realized that what I was trying to do in these smaller arenas is exactly what Cape Ann's geography is that draws so many people here, which includes, of course, the earth, the water, and the sky. And I think that's a big part of what is so appealing geographically about Cape Ann.
It is appealing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's a wonderful place.
Yes.
I fell in love with it instantly.
Yes.
Uh,
And then you add in the human element, the cultural heritage that we have here, and what could be a better place to spend your life, right?
yes, I agree. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Occasionally, my students who are from Gloucester have said, "Yeah, but you weren't born here." I said, "Well, no, I wish I were, but
Well, even better, you came by choice.
I came by choice. I've been here longer than you've been alive, so
That's right.
pull the plug on that." More recently, you've been involved in creating a book, and you have, as you have created others. You gave me a copy of Cape Ann Narratives in Art and Life, of creating a book called Gloucester Encounters. And I'm going to ask Tyler, our director, if he can show that JPEG of the cover, Gloucester's Encounters Now. And if you can tell us when you got the idea for this book.
Well, my involvement with organized cultural life, shall we say, went back to being on the Gloucester Cultural Council. And then, following that, some of us formed a group called the Gloucester Cultural Initiative, which has become a nonprofit organization, a 501c3, and we have conducted or inspired or collaborated with a number of programs around town. But as the 400th was approaching, we wanted to do something that would be not only celebrated during the anniversary, but that would be enduring, that would kind of capture what so many of us like yourself and others have experienced here. And so we're reporters in a way, and we weren't sure exactly what format that would be, but then it took the shape of this book. And about a year and a half ago, we got more focus about it, and we had a specific interest in immigrant history, the ethnic diversity of Cape Ann, and gradually enlarged that scope to the present volume, which we can talk about as we go on. And now it's launched.
So that was in 2020. You sort of focused on that.
It was in the beginning of 2021.
2021.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a year and a half.
A year and a half, yes.
It'll be out this month, November.
Yes.
So,
yes.
I like that you mentioned the diversity, because I think one of the goals of this year's or next year's celebration, our 400th, is going to be diversity.
Yes.
In the past, it has not been a very diverse festivity. The
Yes.
centennials. I know that women had one role 100 years ago. It was to organize the flowers, and happily we're past that, somewhat past that. So you've spent, I don't want to ask you how many hours you've spent, thousands, in that year and a half time. How did it begin to get together? After the meeting, you say, well, we're going to focus. What do we focus on?
Well, it was a combination of topics and authors, or people with experiences, should I say. They weren't necessarily authors. But I have met or witnessed quite a number of people in this community who have deep interest or deep knowledge in a certain subject or life experiences, but they haven't necessarily been published, certainly not in book form. So this was an opportunity to give them a chance to come forward and record something about that. And I was trying to get them to do it in a personal sort of way, almost memoir-like. And many people are modest about what their knowledge is or what their experiences is. So it was hard to get them to write in the first person. But we persisted, and I became more convinced that was the best way to bring life into this book, was to make it as personal as possible. So happily, they all got there, and we wanted to. We didn't want to write a history of Gloucester because that's been that would be a little more encyclopedic than we're attempting to do. And of course there are foundational histories here from the 19th century, but we did want to make this to bring this anthology up to our present era, both with the informational aspect and with the perspective. So, as you mentioned, there are certain areas of diversity and certain parts of our past experience in this community that have not been brought out into the light.
Yeah.
So that's part of what we attempted to do here. Yeah.
I think I've read some of the, you sent me when we were involved in production, some of them, and they do seem, they're very relaxed. And first I thought maybe this is going to be academic kind of thing and stuff, but it's not. It's very relaxed and personable, very readable. It feels like you are actually walking into the town and the city of Gloucester and meeting these people and in a conversation, learning about their experience. And I think that's quite an accomplishment. This might be a good point to mention who is in this. Who are the people who have written it? And you mentioned you'd be very happy to read that list. Would you do that for us?
Certainly. Okay. Put on my readers to do this. Well, you have provided the introduction very happily, so that's how the book opens. And Mark Carlotto, who is well known for his interest in Dogtown and for Native Americans, has the next essay. Linda Brayton, who comes from an immigrant family, and she especially focuses on the Finnish community. Lise Breen is well known locally for her interest in the Black history and slavery in Gloucester, which was, I think she's done groundbreaking research to open that topic up.
And until very recently completely ignored.
Yes. Eric Ronberg is a wonderful curator of maritime history at the Cape Ann Museum. And Peter Nastas, we've been given one of his unpublished memoirs to present here. I have an essay about my arrival in Gloucester and discovering having the 60s experience here that I never had when I was growing up in the Army. Charles Nazarian is the president of the Gloucester Meeting House Fund. Gordon Baird is a contributor to our local paper, and he's especially well versed in music. And Paul Carey Goldberg is a photographer. He has a wonderful group of his own photographs. Jim Seavey is an artist and metalsmith who's taken on the topic of the boulevard, meaning the walkway along the outer harbor. Susan Aroney is an artist and professor of all things artistic. Les Bartlett is a photographer with an interest in the granite landscape. Susanna Natty writes about growing up in Folly Cove. And Prudence Fish, another Lanesville resident who harks back to her growing up time in Lanesville and urban renewal. Elizabeth Enfield is an antique dealer who came across a precious diary of a woman in Annisquam. Dan Greenbaum is a prominent ecologist and environmentalist. Gene Martin is recently retired as an attorney from the National Marine Fisheries Service. The Bell family talks about their company and family heritage with Mighty Mac. Mike Costello was the is the recently retired executive director of the Cape Ann Chamber of Commerce. Adam Kukuru is the present director of Veterans Services in Gloucester. Paul Lundberg is our recent president of the City Council. Now he's a board member of the Addison Gilbert Hospital and Beverly Hospitals, and he talked about the history of our medical community. And Ron Moran was a longtime executive director of NUVA. Jane Peck founded the Cape Ann Social Club. Patty Amaral is a consummate volunteer, self-starter, and Energizer Bunny for Gloucester. David Wise is a Gloucester history teacher from Gloucester High School. Another essay by Peter Anastas. Jonathan Pope contributed one about being a draft resistor and ultimately the chairman of the Gloucester School Committee. Regina Cole is an editor and author who has been 50 years in a women's group here. Sharon Cohen went to Gloucester High School, and during her service in the Air Force was challenged the Air Force's policy towards giving females the same opportunities as males. John Christie is a longtime writer and reporter for the Gloucester Daily Times. Janda Rickymun and his wife Michelle went to Gloucester High School and were very prominent in the track program there. Mark Levy was a veteran of the Vietnam War and came to Gloucester and has written a number of very compelling pieces about his post-war experience. Russell Sherman is a fishing boat captain. Gail McCarthy is our community editor and reporter from the Times. And Ken Rioff is playwright and attorney in Gloucester.
I think he serves on the adventure board. That's quite a list.
Yeah.
I'm happy to say that a number of your contributors have been on the show. Mark, for instance, has been on the show a couple of times, and John Christie and Peter Anastas and many, not everybody, but many. That's an impressive list. What was it like to get everybody to write in the style you wanted for the tone of the book, and also to get them in on time? Was it like herding cats, sort of?
Yeah, right. Well, some people are quick and natural, and some people are much more reticent. And I think almost everybody soon saw that this would be a great opportunity, but they weren't sure how to approach it. So that took some encouragement. And I must say that one of the things that I discovered in this bookmaking process is the value of having some real pros at the editorial end, the copywriter and the book designer, who are, the copywriter was Peg Anderson, who had a long career with, I think, at Harvard University Publication, and she had the ability not just to spot flaws in the writing, but to help present the author in the most refined and elegant way possible. So she did a real service to us, and she's also a fact checker of astonishing resourcefulness. So it felt very good to be undergirded and have that partnership. And then when it got to when the essays had been collected, Meredith Anderson helped make a book out of it. I became very aware that a book is an object that should be not only informative but handsome and well balanced and enjoyable as a thing in itself. So that
It's good that you have that deep appreciation for it,
yes,
because I think people our age do in a way that maybe
yes,
youngsters don't, because we're so used to the physical book.
yes,
And you talk about the book as you would a garden almost. It's
yes.
design and
Yeah.
its feel and its texture. I'm really looking forward to the book, and I think the editing that I saw and I had some experience with, because I did the introduction, was impressive.
Mhm.
Editing is very, very important, and not just walking on. Scratch that. That paragraph's nonsense. Get that out.
Right.
It's very careful process dealing with details of grammar and punctuation, but also the feel and texture of the person's style. And
Which is very personal.
yes, it is very personal.
Yes.
Yeah. I've had experience with editors will find a spelling error after I've looked at it 5, 6, 7 times, and then, oh
Right.
my God, how did it? Because you can't see your own work after a certain point.
Right.
When was your deadline, and how many people kept the deadline? That's a tough question. You don't have to name
Well-
any names. Just say, how,
The book is an evolution, you understand. In the original conception, we asked far fewer authors, thought they were going to be longer pieces, and it was December 1st for the outline and January for the finished work. Well, here we are, mid-September, and we finally pulled it together. So it's kind of breathtaking in a way. And I don't mean to be cavalier about that, but we all had to learn things. And the vision had to grow to be the whole book that it is. And we finally have 36 contributors, which is
it's impressive.
not something to be taken lightly.
It's
No.
very, very impressive
Yes,
accomplishment.
yes, and it had it had to be balanced. And sometimes there were realizations where we needed to, like, for instance, bringing Mark in right at the end. You mentioned that he was a Vietnam veteran who has been a writer on your show, and he is willing and able to to convey in a personalized but also very should I say, the human side of
Yeah.
being a veteran, and
He's very good and a good
Yeah.
poet.
yes,
And he was a medic in
Yes.
Vietnam,
yes,
and draws on that for his work.
yes. So besides the historic, the institutional, and the patriotic side of the veterans and the community experience, really, I think we owe it to ourselves to understand the impact of that that wartime, and trying to reintegrate, trying to pull yourself back together as a valuable citizen once you return. And so and have a sense of humor.
Yeah, it's
Right.
important
Yes.
when you most need it. Yes,
Yes.
when things are not going well. I want to ask you if you could read your introductory paragraph. Do you have that with you? But
No, I don't.
no, okay.
No.
I thought of that just now. I should have thought about that a long time ago. But I'd like to ask you if you would read maybe the first 1 or 2 paragraphs of the preface, which is your preface to the book, to give our audience a feel for it.
Well, you'll have to hand me your copy of that. The name Gloucester, Massachusetts captures 2 important facts of the city's cultural history. That the English settlers who began arriving here in 1623 named it for a town in their homeland, and that its original inhabitants were the Massachusetts people who barely survived their encounter with the newcomers. You see, there was the first encounter from the title. In time, the town became a city, and now, after 400 years, Gloucester is well known far beyond this coastal anchorage. Did you want the next?
Is that the second paragraph?
That's the first.
Why don't you do the second paragraph and then well.
It's been 50 years since I stepped down in Gloucester from the rickety train line linking the North Shore to Boston. I'd come here with a hunch that this station promised a much-needed new beginning. In the years since, that anticipation has paid daily dividends in the form of friendships, rewarding work, and family ties. Eventually, I was appointed to the Gloucester Cultural Council, which channels public funds to local innovators, a rich mix of energies and talent. In 2015, I joined other community members to bring to fruition the recommendation of the city's most recent municipal planning review. 2 years later, we founded the Gloucester Cultural Initiative, a nonprofit organization dedicated to enhancing our cultural vitality.
Thank you.
Yes.
I think I like the first person.
Yes,
It's comfortable, very comfortable.
that's right.
That brings us almost to the close. I am very glad that you could come and be on the writer's block, Martin Ray. This book is targeted and right on in helping the celebration of the 400th anniversary of the city be a real, substantial, not a frivolous flower waving event, but historically important, and having put together a book that will last and be a record. I think I mentioned that in emails once. I thought this was an excellent title because it's going to be read for decades and decades. You don't want something flashy that people aren't going to get the joke about, you know, in 2 or 3 or 4 years. So thank you for putting together this book, and thank you for being on the writer's block.
Thank you for being the host. And
I want to thank everybody in television land, too, for being with us this evening. If you've learned something about Gloucester Encounters, Essays on the Cultural History of the City, 1623 to 2023, and learn to appreciate Martin Ray's approach and in creating this wonderful book, then the writer's block has done its job. Thanks for being with us, and I hope to see you again next time on the writer's block. Good night.